Hey everybody, Sayre at Nova again. This week we are talking about a relatively rare bike, I would say, and one that has been a pretty difficult project for us. It's a 1963 Yamaha YDT1, not to be confused with the YDS1, although they're remarkably similar bikes. This was early 60s, obviously, very beginning of Yamaha's, quote, big bike era, actually really, really close to the beginning of Yamaha in general. I believe this is the first export model, the first model they had for sale in the US. I could be wrong about that, but if it wasn't the first, it was very close to the beginning. 250cc, two-stroke, pretty radical for its day. If you know anything about the history of how the Japanese got their two-strokes, it was based on the German Adler that was stolen from the East Germany by a defecting rider who brought their technology over to Suzuki, and then the Japanese sort of proliferated that way. So the two-stroke tech made its way to Japan via Cold War espionage, which is always kind of fun to think about. But anyway, so of its era, pretty advanced, not groundbreaking in too many ways, but pretty top of the line tech for the early '60s. Went well, beginning of Yamaha's two-stroke domination, which lasted into the '70s. So this bike in particular was very difficult because there's just not many pieces of them left, and there's not many people making parts for them. So while it came to us as in theory, possibly simple job, it was much harder to find very weird little things. So you notice I'm missing a cover here. Actually, I do have this cover. This carburetor intake is made up of rubber hosing because that piece is just unavailable. Strangely enough, one of the hardest things, and the thing that stalled this bike for about a year, this has been a long-term project, was finding a clutch plate for it. I couldn't find them anywhere. Nobody's making them. And in the end, old Kevin Cameron, who's a local here, came in the shop talking about Yamahas with him. And I said, hey, you got any clutch plates for those vertically split Yamaha two-strokes? And he came back a few days later with a bag full of them. So that worked out. There's some used clutch plates in there from Kevin Cameron to keep this thing rolling. Yeah, and another thing that was difficult about this bike is it came to us in a total pile. The customer first brought me the engine and said, hey, can you rebuild this? And I said, sure. And that was actually relatively easy. We stripped it down and we powder coated the motor just for looks. That's what he wanted. And it was clear that there was a lot of patina on stuff. When you look closely at some of the shots, you'll see pitting on the pipes and pitting on some of the stuff. And we decided that we would just keep that and have a sort of a clean patina. And that's a contradictory term, but basically keep the scars, but make it look shiny. So the motor was almost, other than the clutch, as I mentioned, almost not a big deal. And then he brought the rest of the bike, and it was, many pieces, just, 50% of it was rust. Thankfully, the frame was intact, but it was really tough. It was really rough, and I wasn't even sure I really wanted to get into it, but we decided we would just take it as it came and see how long it took to do it, and we did it bit by bit. And some of it went together rather quickly. Some of the stuff is still available out there. But as I was saying, some of it really is not, and took a lot of people using these bikes anymore. The info that you find on these things is often for later versions. So this was, just so early that it was tough. In the end, it's fun to do a project like this. The stress of trying to do it on a timeline is virtually impossible. But it's actually a really fun bike. Starts up and goes. The shifting on this is unlike anything I've ridden. You have to sort of preload the shifter before you grab the clutch. It's just a lot of it is just, it's definitely at an era when certain companies were figuring out how to do stuff and it hadn't been standardized. So it's very different. We tried to create it. This is a mimicking of the original paint scheme. I'm not going to say that this is a restoration. This is originally chrome here, where we have it painted silver. The blue was matched off of what we could find of the original paint, but that's 60, 70 years old coming on, so it's tough to actually, no, my math is terrible. It's 60 years old coming on, so it's some of the original paint's going to be faded anyway. But it's a moderately complete bike. There's details that aren't quite accurate, but it looks close enough to be we call it a Resto-mod kind of thing without too radical changes. And I think the owner's going to have a lot of fun with it. It certainly is unique, and and you know, you don't see a ton of them out there. So if you're riding one of these old things, these old vertically split Yamaha two-strokes, let us know your thoughts about it. One last detail, I mentioned it's a YDT, not the S. The YDTs were more common. They're very similar, share a lot of the same parts, but the difference is the YDS is more common. The YDT is for touring, has a single carburetor, which you don't often see on a twin two-stroke. It's a twin, vertical twin, and it's got one single carburetor, which is kind of out of the norm for anything other than 360 crank British twin or something like that. So a little bit interesting. There is some covers that go over this that we have that we will put on. But yeah, any thoughts about these things? Any experience with these things? Any difficulty finding parts you want to share stories with? We're all ears. And as usual, please like and subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.